The cabin of the private jet hummed with a low, luxurious vibration as Kylian Mbappé, one of the world's most celebrated athletes, leaned back into his plush leather seat. The promotional event he had just attended in Vancouver had been grueling, and he was eager to return home to Paris. Adjusting his cap to shield his eyes from the cabin lights, he closed them, hoping for a moment of peace. But peace was fleeting. "Sir," came a sharp voice, laced with suspicion. "I need to see your identification again." Kylian opened his eyes, startled. A flight attendant stood over him, her expression tight and judgmental. "Again? I showed it before boarding," he replied calmly, reaching for his passport. The French national team crest gleamed under the cabin lights as he handed it over. The attendant scrutinized the passport as though it were counterfeit, her eyes darting between Kylian's photo and his face. "We need to confirm your identity," she said curtly. "There have been issues." Kylian's jaw tightened. He knew what this was. The sideways glances, the whispered assumptions, he had faced them before. The subtle but unmistakable sting of racial profiling was all too familiar. "What issues?" he asked, his voice calm but firm. The attendant hesitated before responding. "We need to be absolutely certain you are who you say you are." Her tone was condescending, her gaze unyielding. Kylian's patience began to fray. "I've shown you my passport. What more do you want?" Ignoring his protest, the flight attendant called for the pilot. Moments later, a tall man with an imposing presence emerged from the cockpit. His eyes locked onto Kylian with undisguised hostility. "We have reason to believe there may be a security risk," the pilot announced loudly, his voice booming through the cabin. "A security risk? Because I'm black?" Kylian shot back, his voice vibrating with anger. The pilot ignored him and instructed the flight attendant to search Kylian's belongings. Feeling humiliated and trapped, Kylian refused. "You have no right to do this. I am a French citizen and a professional athlete. I will not be treated like this." The tension in the cabin was palpable. Other passengers shifted uncomfortably in their seats, some whispering among themselves while others stared in silence. The pilot threatened to divert the plane if Kylian did not comply. Frustrated and furious, Kylian pulled out his phone and began recording the encounter. Before the situation could escalate further, a calm yet authoritative voice cut through the tension. "That won't be necessary." All heads turned toward a man seated near the back of the cabin. He stood up and produced a badge that glinted under the dim cabin lights. "French National Police," he announced firmly. The flight attendant froze mid-step, her face paling. The pilot stiffened visibly. "I've been observing your behavior," the officer continued, his tone sharp and unwavering. "You have subjected Mr. Mbappé to unwarranted scrutiny based solely on his race. This is illegal and unacceptable." He turned to Kylian with an apologetic expression. "Mr. Mbappé, I sincerely apologize for this ordeal. Rest assured, this matter will be addressed." The officer then pulled the pilot and flight attendant aside for a tense conversation that left them visibly shaken when they returned to their stations. The plane continued its journey without further incident, but upon landing in Paris, uniformed police officers met the pilot and flight attendant at the gate. An official statement from French aviation authorities condemned their actions as discriminatory and confirmed that they were under investigation for racial profiling. The story quickly went viral after passengers shared videos of the encounter online. Social media erupted with outrage as fans and activists rallied behind Kylian, praising him for standing up against injustice. Initially hesitant to speak publicly about the incident, Kylian eventually released a statement. This experience was deeply unsettling but not unique. It highlights an issue that many people face daily: discrimination based on race or appearance. No one should ever feel dehumanized or criminalized simply for existing. His words resonated globally, sparking widespread conversations about racism in air travel and beyond. The airline involved faced public backlash and announced mandatory diversity training for all employees while suspending both the pilot and flight attendant pending further investigation. For Kylian Mbappé, this incident became more than just a personal ordeal. It became a rallying cry against systemic prejudice. His quiet dignity in handling the situation inspired millions and underscored an undeniable truth. Even in moments of humiliation or injustice, courage has the power to spark change.